it's a bit of Jekyll and Hyde, really. Let me just back up and give you a bit of a recap of what's been going on, because you could watch like 6 different vlogs to find out, but I just, the odds of people seeing the stuff I said before is slim to none. So let me just give you a short recap of what's been going on. It all started when I was a really young child. What I did was I suppressed my spirit so much that it literally shattered. When your chakras shatter, it means that it's not just an imbalance anymore. A big chunk of your actual spirit splinters off and gets stuck in limbo somewhere. In order to retrieve it and bring it back and your spirit be complete again, you have to first find out why it shattered in the beginning. So basically, as a child, my very abusive family was, they wanted a social butterfly, happy, bubbly, loves dolls and sunshine child. And I was basically Wednesday. I mean, I never did anything that would, harm anybody. I never did anything like, especially to anyone innocent. Actually, if you watch the more recent version of Wednesday, where she's more of a, balanced individual and doesn't torture people for fun, that there's something on Netflix where they take that part away, and the only other part of her character really is just the darkness. And so that if you look at it that way, that kind of describes how I was as a child a bit better, because I didn't go around and bully anybody. I just had this darkness about me that they didn't like. I was very tomboyish, and I liked the rain and the storms, and I liked the cold, and I liked the night, and I liked the moon, and I liked the darkness, and I hated the sun, and I hated the summertime. I hated the bright lights. I hated girly things. It's just everything I was not is what they wanted. And so I thought, okay, me lying to them, they'll figure it out. So I have to be convincing. And the only way that I'm convincing enough is if I lie to myself, and then that way I won't know the difference. I could have just smiled and nodded and faked it, and they would have believed me. But I didn't know that. And so what I was trying to do was be like what they wanted so that they wouldn't hurt me. But what I realized later is it didn't fucking matter, because they were going to hurt me anyway. So all of it was for fucking nothing. And that moment when my spirit shattered, that left me wounded, that left me vulnerable for someone later in my life to take advantage of it. I had just barely gotten my feet wet in paganism. This was probably over a decade and a half ago by now. It was a long time ago. And someone calling herself a healer said that she would retrieve those shattered pieces of my spirit back, but instead of retrieving them, she stole not only that, but she stole a lot of the rest of me. So basically, I walked out of there like an empty shell. I felt like I was dead inside, like I didn't have any emotion. I felt like a zombie, a robot. And if you don't have any spirit or emotion, for a long time I just thought it was me, something I did. And then I finally realized the timing of it had to do with her. I finally was able to correct it when I realized what she had done. I reversed it quite quickly. But the problem was, I could have reversed it no less than, no more than 2 years after what happened. Because I knew enough, probably under 2 years, I knew enough to reverse it. It was very simple. And yet, I had no fucking clue for so long. So that angers me as well, because I could have fixed it. Half a decade before I fixed it. Had I just known. And that's my fault. But anyway, finally fixed that. The problem was that, finally got it back, but most of it was just kind of hovering over my head. It wasn't binding with the rest of my spirit. So at that point, I had to find out why it wasn't binding properly. And I realized that it was a chakra issue. To find out why, you often have to find out, way back why it happened in the beginning. So it brought me back to that time when I was a child where it initially shattered. Why did that shatter? I didn't even know at first, and I thought, okay, it's because I was trying to suppress myself and not allow myself to be myself. So I've done that for so long, it's habitual. What I need to do is stop suppressing it and allow myself to be myself. I have to break that habit. And once I did that, it all came flooding back in. No longer than a couple of days later, I started getting just all of these memories and messages and just tons of things from my spirit guardians, my guides, the universe itself. I mean, it was like everyone wanted to tell me something. So I knew I did something right, because that coincided with the timing of it, with me being whole again. I went from feeling absolutely nothing, which, let me tell you, that feels a lot worse than feeling something, to feeling pain, to feeling literally everything all at once. Things that I hadn't felt in nearly a decade, at least not to that level. And it was overwhelming. But that's exactly what I wanted. Because if that happens, you did it right. There's always going to be some processing that you have to go through. You can't get around that. That's a side effect of, fixing things. Basically, doing chakra work is it's a common side effect that you just have a lot of increased emotion and things. So, it is a bit like Jekyll and Hyde, because when I'm really distracted on something and busy, I don't have time to really think. But the moment that I sit there and do nothing, the moment that I'm sitting there and quiet, that's like Jekyll and Hyde, because it's all of that emotion comes back. And not just the emotion, but my overall energy, who I am, what I am. I remember talking about this, I don't remember which vlog it was, but the cravings are going to be something I have to watch, because that's part of who I am. I never use this as something bad, but it's my energy is dark energy. Most humans are light energy. For example, bees are light energy. Ravens are dark energy. Okay, so it's not good or bad, it's just night and day, sun, moon, storm energy versus fire energy. It's just different, that's all. But people with that day energy tend to be healers and a little bit more passive in nature. They like happiness and peace and contentness, and things of dark energy don't. They feel at home with war, with hunting, with protection. They have to be doing things, so if you sit there long enough with your thoughts, you might go insane. But I guess, that those cravings haven't been so bad until now. The hunter part of me, the protector part of me. If you don't know what this is, you can look up the theme that I have in the creatures playlist. But the Ridgeson has an immense hunger. And as a shapeshifter, that is my alternate form. That is the animal I shift into as a Ridgeson. It's not my choice, it's what my spirit is. In most every life I've lived, that's what I've been. So it's just me, it's just who I am. But those cravings get really, really intense. And before, if I ran out of food, especially if I ran out of that really red meat, metallic tasting meat, with all the bloody iron taste in it, if I ran out of something like that back then, I could fare off just fine. But if I ran out of it now, I would do what I did as a child, and I would probably resort to tearing holes in my flesh with my teeth. I've got scars from that. I have different vlogs where I've showed it, but this lighting doesn't really show it very well, and we really don't need to see it anyway. So moving on, it's just something I have to watch and be careful of, because those cravings need to be kept in check and need to be hushed in a safe way, until I can finally shapeshift and finally be protector out in the forest, and then it won't matter. But here in the human world, it will need to be controlled. So I'm almost at the point where I want to try and hand it, seeing how far I can get with the shapeshifting, the physical shapeshifting, but I'm not quite balanced enough yet. So I'm waiting on that. Right now, there'd be no point really to do too much too soon, because you would know that you couldn't fully shift, I may be able to shift parts of me, but not all of me. So, why bother until you're ready, basically, on that. But just the amount that I feel, the energy inside me, I'm starting to feel like I used to feel, like I always felt, when I was really, really young, like 4 or 5, I remember feeling like that. That time before I shattered my spirit, I felt like that. In past lives, I remember feeling like that. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's pain or misery or cravings, or it doesn't matter. Because I will take it. It's me. It's who I am. I was shunned for it. I was told that it was horrid. I was told that it was wrong. I was told my family belongs to a Abrahamic cult that wants to rid of anyone and anything that possesses or has a fascination with magic. I was never allowed to be who I was. And most people that I would tell, even psychologists, would say, that's not really you. And it just makes you want to cry, because yes, it is me. And why isn't that good enough? Why isn't that good enough? Yes, it is possible for someone to be Wednesday, basically. Wednesdays do exist. I'm not the only Wednesday, okay? And no, I'm not Wednesday exactly. There's a lot of things that my personality differs from, but you get my point. Why is it so bad to be different? And I can hear that message a lot more clearly than I used to.